Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is basically it's an unsolved case, and it involves multiple deaths. I'm not going to say the word that is. It begins with an M. You guys probably know what it is, but I might get not happy vibes off of YouTube for that word. It's a horrific unsolved crime. Why do I keep hitting my mic again? Like, I stopped this, but it's apparently back again. Yay. Yeah, so it's an unsolved crime from 30 years ago in Las Cruces, Mexico, and it occurred in a bowling alley. Some of you may know of it, some of you may not, but whoever watches me, all know of it by the end of this video, hopefully. And it's still unsolved. This was suggested by one of you guys, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have, and of course, if you do have any more, please do let me know. Las Cruces is a city in the southern New Mexico region, and it is the second largest after Albuquerque. And the era that we're actually jumping back to is 1990. We're heading specifically to an area where there was this bowling alley on East Amador Avenue. Specifically, the date. Oh, I can't talk. Specifically, the date is the 10th of February in 1990, which is, yeah, my era. Needless to say, I was born in the 90s. We are gonna follow a lady called Stephanie Sanok, who was working at the bowling alley at the time. She was a manager, and she was heading into work. She was 34 years old at the time. Now, like I said, she was a manager, but her father actually owned the bowling alley, and he was called Ronald Sunak. She brought with her her 12-year-old daughter, Melissa. Melissa also brought one of her friends, 13-year-old Amy Husa. So they did have a little role within this bowling alley, and they had a daycare sort of centre where the people would drop off the kids and obviously they would watch them. That was what the kids did, so they would kind of supervise over it. I know they were very young themselves, but they were trusted to do such a role, and that is what they did. So I believe that they went in about 8-ish, and the bowling alley doesn't actually open until 9. Stephanie's there, she's getting all stuff sorted out, she's getting prepared and ready to open the bowling alley at 9, and she was actually in her manager's office at the time, and the girls were just out in sort of the bowling area. Now, there was also somebody else inside there at the time, and it was the chef who was busily in the kitchen sort of making the food or snacks or whatever for the day. She was called Ida Haldwin. At about 8:15, Stephanie's brother called in, Stephen. He nipped in to pick up a backpack, I believe, that he'd left there a previous night. Now, normally, like I said, the bowling alley didn't open till 9, so normally the doors would stay locked until 9. When Stephen approached the bowling alley, he realised that the doors were open, which is quite shocking to him because they weren't open yet. Obviously, he was nipping in because he forgot something. He wasn't a member of the public. It wasn't open to them at the time. And yet the doors were open. So when he came in and he got his backpack, he actually told Stephanie that and said, like, your front doors are open. Basically, they shouldn't be. Now, as he was leaving, he remembers seeing 2 Hispanic men walking towards the bowling alley, and they had a briefcase. Now, he didn't really think much of it at the time. But just 5 minutes later, the men bust in there. Well, they don't really have to do much busting because the door's open. And they begin waving a gun around, a handgun. So there was 2 adult women and 2 children in there at the time, and all of them were forced into the manager's office and forced to get on the floor. It was said that these guys were looking around for something, like they wanted something specific. And let me tell you as well, they didn't cover their faces or anything. Like, they didn't want to hide their identity. They didn't care. Now, obviously, that kind of sparks worry straight away because you're thinking, well, I've seen them, I can ID them, but normally when that happens, they don't leave you alive to be able to do so. So that's a very frightening thought. But yeah, they literally didn't care. They were both Hispanic men, well, described as Hispanic men. One was in about his 20s, one was in his 40s, 50s. One had spoke English, but had kind of a bit of a Spanish accent, and the other didn't really have an accent or anything at all. They also told everybody that they would let them go once they got what they wanted. Like I said, they was looking around. It was noted. It seems like they were there for something very specific. And they did end up robbing the safe. But it's very much believed that that is not what they were there for. Because in the safe was about $4 or $5 grand. Well, $1,000. And there was more than that, and that's all they took. So they could have taken more from that safe, but they didn't. They just grabbed that money. And people really focus on the fact that they weren't really interested in the safe beforehand. They were looking for something else, it seems like. So we have no idea what that was. Now, obviously, Stephanie was the manager, and she was the only one that had access to the safe, so she was the one that had to open it for them, which she did. She opened it. They bagged up the money. It seems like they were getting ready to put that all away. I don't know whether the plan was to do what they did or whether they were just going to grab the money and run. But like I said, they didn't wear anything to hide their identity. So to me, that's not a smart criminal. Like normally they put something over their head, like a pair of tags, for example, a mask, whatever, bandana. They had nothing. So anyway, sadly, 3 more people enter the building. And this takes them off guard. This was a gentleman called Stephen Turum. He was 26 years old, and he was like a pin mechanic for the bowling place. Can't remember what they're called. Bowling alley. That's it. And he... Okay, that's fine. And he had come in to do his shift. Now, he had also brought his 2 little girls with him because his wife was in work, I believe. They couldn't find childcare, and so he brought them in. They had the childcare facilities there anyway, and it's something that he would do if they couldn't find childcare. You know, there wasn't an issue with it, and that's what he did. He brought them in with him. One was his biological daughter, the other was his stepdaughter, but he treated her like a daughter. He absolutely adored her and took her on as his own. They were called Paula, who was 6, and Valerie, who was just 2 years old. So they've walked into, well, in the middle of an armed robbery. They've basically walked into a storm. And the men obviously grab them, shove them, gunpoint. They wrestle a bit, but they manage to put them also in the manager's office, and then they make them lay on the floor as well. So at this point, there are 7 people laid on that floor, of which 3 are adults and 4 are children. And apparently the thing that really got me with this case as well, one of the things that really got me with this case is that Stephen had handed his notice in because he had a job somewhere else. He was leaving within 2 weeks, and he came into this with his children. Not that he would have known, obviously he wouldn't have, but it's just really heartbreaking facts of the case when you actually think back on it and all of that and look through it all. So then the gunmen decide that they are going to open fire on everybody on the floor. People were shot multiple times. 25 bullets, I believe, in total, or around about that, was fired. Not into each person, but each person got multiple bullets. Some were done execution style, and then the men decided to gather some papers, put it on top of a desk, and then set that on fire. Probably to try and burn away any evidence or whatnot, and then off they pop, they leg it. They didn't actually kill everyone, thankfully. And it was one brave, amazing, absolutely amazing little girl, Melissa, 12 years old, who ends up calling the police. At this point, let me just say, she had also been, a victim of the crime, and she managed to muster up the strength and the courage to ring the police and let them know of the situation. And here is the phone call of that.
Emergency.
Please help me.
Oh, well, slow down.
We were all shot and hold up.
Okay. Where are you at?
1201 East Amador, Las Cruces Bowl.
Las Cruces Bowl?
Yes.
Okay, and there were shots fired?
Yes. All of us were hurt.
Huh?
All of us were hurt. I think I'm the only one conscious.
All of you were hurt? Okay, we'll get an ambulance rolling.
Please.
Okay. What's your name?
Melissa Repass. Please hurry.
Okay, Melissa, we've got them dispatched. Did you see who did it?
No, sir. They told us all to get down. They shot me 5 times.
Okay. We'll get them rolling, Melissa. Just hang down. Take a deep breath. We've got patrol units in route. How many people are hurt?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7 people are hurt?
Yes, I think.
7 subjects hurt. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, Melissa.
It hurts.
It hurts. Okay. Melissa, I've got an ambulance and I've got the police officers en route. They'll be with you just shortly.
Just help me.
We're helping you, Melissa. We've got them rolling. Okay? Gotta be brave. Gotta be strong now. Okay?
Oh, God. It's going to burn us right now.
Okay. Can you see flames?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's burning us.
Okay.
Oh, I got bullets in my feet.
Okay.
The bullets in my head.
The bullets in your head, too? Was that the police officer telling you to get out?
Yeah.
Then get out.
Okay.
Okay?
Now, thanks to Melissa's actions, you know, not everybody died that day, which is just absolutely amazing. And that phone call genuinely brought a tear to my eye. Like, it really, really broke my heart that she's ringing up the police, having gone through that situation. And just her bravery is just so amazing. But yeah, it proper upset me. But it meant that Melissa survived the attack, Stephanie survived the attack, and so did Ida. Sadly, the others were not so lucky. Amy, her friend, Stephen, and his two daughters, Valerie and Paula, were all pronounced at the scene. Oh, sorry, no, Valerie wasn't actually pronounced at the scene. She was alive when they got to her, but sadly she did pass away a short time later after they rushed her to hospital and tried everything they could. They couldn't save her. The issue with them setting the fire, although it probably wasn't their full intention because they wanted the entire place to burn, obviously, but it still did its job because you have to imagine the fire is burning, the fire engines come in and they put that fire out. They use water or whatever to put that out, and that also destroys potentially any evidence that was there too. So not only have you got the fire destroying it, you've got the water destroying it, and that left them basically with nothing, sadly. They had no evidence of anything, really. Obviously, the people that survived did see the people that did this to them, you know. They were able to describe them. Sketches were drawn up from that, but they couldn't even speak to a lot of them until 2 weeks after because of how, like, surgeries and, you know, how critical and things they were. But they did manage to get these sketches. These sketches that were drawn up are pretty detailed, and they got descriptions of them and everything like that, and yet still the case is unsolved. They did set up roadblocks and things like that because they thought that they were gonna go down Mexican Way, which is not far from where this had happened, but they didn't really catch anything. People did come forward to say that they heard gunshots, that they saw two men running away in an alleyway about 8:30. Obviously, Stephen had seen the men. Stephen was Stephanie's brother, like I said in the beginning. Wait, Stephen? Stephanie's brother, Steve, who had seen the two men approaching, also gave his description of them too, and that all came tied in with the sketches. But still, they didn't really get very far. At one point, I did read that they managed to pull over a van with some men in the back, and these men were Hispanic. They had thousands of dollars worth of cash with them, and they got like Steve in to go and try and identify them, see if he recognized any of them, but he couldn't. He didn't really say that these were the guys or not, and so they had to just let them pass through, and that was that. There's a lot of speculation that before this blockade even went up, that the men could have just gone, like, as soon as they left, just bombed it, gone. It took the police to get there, but obviously they're ambulances, they're trying to get the victims out, they're trying to save them, and then obviously they're thinking about setting up the roadblocks and stuff, so they could have escaped in the meantime, is what I'm trying to say. The police also tried to look into the owner, Ronald, to see whether he had any ties to anything, as to why anybody would want to do this. He'd reported burglaries before, and he only waited a week to reopen the bowling alley, which is pretty too soon, I think, anyway, personally. But yeah, he did. And then he ended up selling it in the future because of financial issues, I believe. There was claims of people being involved in drug activity around the area, and people related to it and brothers and cousins and stuff like that. There were suspicions as to whether it was some sort of inside job because that front door was left open, which it never normally is. And some people don't think it was a robbery at all. Like, if you're going to rob the joint, aren't you going to go at night time when you're guaranteed there's going to be nobody there? Why was they going in the morning just before opening when it's more likely that there's going to be people there? Like, at least the people that work there anyway. People have also speculated about Steve walking out with the backpack and how he grabbed it just seconds, or well, minutes before they came. But then, surely if that's what they wanted, they would have just, like, grabbed it. If they saw the man that they knew, because I don't know whether he had the drug affiliation, possibly. Whether they saw him and they knew that they wanted something off him, why wouldn't they have just grabbed him? So, not too sure on that one. Sadly, Stephanie, although she did survive, she would pass away in 1999, and that was due to sort of, it was because of the shooting. Essentially, it was like injuries and stuff that was caused by the shooting. So that just left Melissa and Ida the two survivors, the two remaining survivors of the horrific incident. They are still looking into it. It's been like over 30 years now, 32, I think. And they will still follow any tips that come in, things like that. But as of yet, nothing. They have no idea who did this. Any evidence that was there could have been washed away or burnt away. And these men just got away with it. Up until now. Well, up until this moment in time anyway. And hopefully in the future they will be caught. But you just never know, because I don't think they have any DNA. I don't think they have anything. They had them sketches. They had literally the victims that saw these people. And nothing. Still nothing. So I'd love to know what your thoughts and theories are on this case, because it's just pretty strange. But yeah, that is the end of the case. If you guys have enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of the Las Cruces Bowling Alley murders. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.